changed without affecting the application's ability to access the data. So you could think of this one as basically anything. Welcome back to the ninth planet. Here we go, database design. So a database design focuses on the design of the database structure that will be used to store and manage end user data. So this is just like the schema of a database. You can think of it like that. So a well-designed database facilitates data management and it generates accurate and valuable information. So what does a poorly designed database give us? It gives us tracing errors, it gives us inability to see if data is duplicated or not. So a poorly designed database leads to difficulty in tracing errors and all the things I mentioned above. We're going to move on now to the evolution of data processing. Evolution of file system data processing. File systems were initially developed to manage files on a physical storage media such as hard disk or a solid state drive. And the way file systems are used has changed along with the data processing. Nowadays, computers use a centralized database to process the majority of the data. So we went from just having one hard disk or one computer having everything to just one database having everything and each computer connecting to the one database. Problem with file system data processing. Right now, we're about to look at the 3 sequential steps data processing took in order to reach the way it is today. So the evolution of file system data processing. We'll stick on that topic. First one is manual file system. It was accomplished through a system of file folders and filing cabinets. This was like in the early days, like during the 90s and shit. This was where people were using file folders and filing cabinets to actually store information. Okay, this is like during those times. We're going to move on now to number 2, which is computerized file system. So this is where things started to get digitalized a little bit. Nothing too fancy, nothing too much. It was just a company's files are organized and kept on a hard drive or network space by computerized or electronic filling system. See? Computerized filling system, cabinet system. You see the change there, right? What else do we got? The system may be software or internet based, or it may be simply a computer's desktop folder file system. So you could say that it had unlimited possibilities, it had unlimited probability, since you could make it internet based, so you could make it software, you could make it just one computer, like a desktop database type of thing. I think that's where they got the concept of desktop databases. So number 3 is a file system redux. So it includes spreadsheet programs like Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Access, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, all those yada shit. That is a file system redux. Basically anything that has database management system in it. It is a DBMS. You could think of it as a file system redux. So alright, now we're dealing with the problems with file system data processing. These are the problems that people who use this system have encountered in the past and hopefully have solved them. So the first one is lengthy development time, meaning that it takes an extraordinary amount of time to develop a file system. Second one is difficulty of getting quick answers. Sometimes getting quick answers in a file system tends to be extremely difficult, and it is extremely time wasting and time consuming. So this is another problem people have with file system data processing. Another one is complex system administration. So you see, managing this thing was a whole other job of its own, because you had to manage the system, meaning that you had to hire an administrator who knew how the system worked and who knew how to maneuver around the system in order to get what they want. four things: lack of security and limited data sharing. So, as I said, lack of security and limited data sharing. This is another aspect in which the olden file systems had a problem with. Because of the lack of security, anything could get misplaced, anything could get stolen pretty easily, and the limitedness of data sharing meant that data had to go an excruciatingly long process for it to reach its intended target, meaning that the time wasted on decision making was thus increased, which is why you often hear the concept: the bigger the company, the more time it takes to make decisions, because information and data has to flow. There's a chain of flow of information and data. And if a company is really big and they have an information communication technology system that is in place, that can allow them to improve their data sharing and improve their lack of security. So we're going to move on now to number 5, which is extensive programming. Yes, file system data processing does include programming, and it should be in programming, not your basic type of programming. No, it should be high tier, top class programming, programming of the highest order, so that hackers cannot get this information easily, so that hackers cannot also steal the information, and so that the user of the program is able to use it at an efficient rate. So that brings me to the end of the problem with file system data processing. Now we're gonna move on to alright, basic file terminology. So data are raw facts such as telephone number, birth date, etc. Data has little meaning unless they have been recognized in some logical manner. So that's basically data, raw facts. So a field is a character or a group of characters, whether it's alphabetical or numeric, that has a specific meaning. A field is used to define and store data. So a field stores data. Data is raw facts, which is stored by the field. See the connection? Alright, record. A record is a logically connected set of one or more fields that describe a person. So a record stores fields or one or more fields, and those fields describe a person or an entity. So what else? A file. A file is a collection of related records. For example, a file might contain data about the students currently enrolled at a gigantic university such as Durban University of Technology. Every single student has a file, or we have one file that stores all of our records as students, right? So that is the basic file terminology. You have a data, you have field, you have records, and you have file. That's just 4 things you need to know about file terminology. So we're gonna move on to structural and unstructured independence. By structural and data dependence. So structural dependence is access to a file is dependent on its own structure, meaning that how you access a file depends on how the file is structured. So all file system programs are modified to conform to a new file structure, meaning that if you're making a new file system program, that program is going to be automatically made to confine to any new file structure. So what is structural independence? Structural independence is a file structure that is changed without affecting the application's ability to access the data. So you could think of this one as basically anything that does not rely on the ability of how you could access the data. More like something that is on a physical copy, where there's only like one way you can where there's not one way in which you can view it. You can view it in multiple manners and multiple formats. But basically it's like that. A file structure is changed without affecting the application's ability to access the data, meaning that the structure of the file can change, but the application will be able to access the data inside the file. So data dependence. Data access changes when data storage characteristics change. So the way you access the data changes when the way the data is stored changes. So basically it's like that. It's an action and a reaction, just that. So data independent. Data storage characteristics is changed without affecting the program's ability to access the data. So in this instance here, data storage characteristics can be changed, but it will not affect the ability of a program to access the data, and that is data independent. The practical significance of data dependence is the difference between logical and physical format. That brings me to the end of my video. If you liked it, like and subscribe. I'll catch you again on the next one.